Well, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who's joining today. I'm really happy to be here. And let's jump into it. Okay. I'm here today to talk to you about a secret weapon for your law firm. Hopefully, after today, not so secret anymore. But this topic today is remote associates. And I'm sure this is something that you're already quite familiar with, but I'm going to hopefully make you even more familiar with it. As the legal admin at your firm, you're responsible for a lot of things. You are the figure it out person. You are the find a solution person. You are the get it handled person. And I'm guessing that most of you on this call today are in charge of hiring as well. And that's what we're going to be talking about. But before we do, quick introduction about myself and the company. I'm Kristen Tyler. I am here at Law Clerk headquarters in Las Vegas, Nevada. I speak frequently about legal outsourcing, remote associates, and love to tell you about my dogs if you're curious. But, for now, the background on me, I am a trust and estates attorney, actually still active. I keep a small book of business, but my focus the last 6 years has been on launching and growing this company, which has happened very quickly. And as we find more and more medium to large size firms coming to us for solutions, we thought it was the perfect time to speak with your group to share the ways that we're already working with firms just like yours to find unique solutions to their hiring challenges, because there's a lot of challenges out there in the world today. I will also mention, if you're going to be in Denver in 2 weeks, I will be there along with a couple members from our team, and we would love to meet you there. Please come by our booth. We'd love to talk in person, hear about what's going on at your firm with your hiring needs. So without further ado, a little bit more about Law Clerk. You can find us on the web at lawclerk.legal. And there's a ton of information on there. We also have a really robust YouTube channel if you'd like to go watch some more videos on any specific topics. But at any point you're interested in setting up a time to talk with our team, you can click on this Talk to an Expert to schedule that, and we'd be happy to meet with you. Okay. Overview of Law Clerk. It is a service for attorneys and law firms to find other attorneys to work with. We only work with attorneys. We don't have paralegals. We don't have legal assistants. There's a lot of services out there that focus on those needs and staffing those types of legal professionals. We just focus on the associates, on the attorneys, and helping you scale up when you need more associates, and doing that in a flexible way that makes it easy to turn it off when you no longer need them for whatever reason. The account holder for Law Clerk would need to be one of your attorneys, but very commonly we have someone like a legal administrator also in the account to help manage it and manage that workflow. So just know that if and when you are going to sign up and give it a try, you would have to do that in conjunction with one of the attorneys at your firm. No fee to sign up, no monthly fee. So to have an account and have access to our network of thousands of remote associates available to you when you need it is kind of a no-brainer, just to make an account and have it ready to go. Because we know that there's a lot of firms that, things come up and you need help. Someone takes on a big case doesn't settle, you're headed for trial, you got to close a big deal by the end of the quarter, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of times where you suddenly find you need more attorneys. You need more attorneys now to get this work done. And that's what Law Clerk is here for, to help you get more work done, to help your firm produce more billable hours. Okay, so what's going on in the legal industry? What's the temperature out there in terms of what's legal doing, and how is hiring going? Okay, some great data came out from our friends at Net Documents earlier this year. It's their 2023 report, and they found that 30% of law firms across the board, regardless of firm size, say their number one priority over the coming year is growth. Okay, not surprising. 40% of those firms say that they are going to achieve those growth goals through hiring, but that hiring and recruitment remains a big challenge. Okay, so if you've been feeling any of those woes about hiring and what's going on and having a hard time finding the talent that you need, you are definitely not alone. I'm just going to make sure my chat's up over here if you have any questions. So for some reason, when I was making the slideshow and I was trying to make a slide for this next little point I wanted to hit, all I could think about was Seinfeld. So you're getting a Seinfeld. You remember his whole, what's the deal with? Okay, so what's the deal with hiring associate attorneys. I want to tell you a couple of stories from attorneys I've talked to, or from either legal administrators or law firm owners I've talked to in the past couple months alone. I've had, I don't even know how many call or email and say that they have posted a job for an associate attorney to have either 0 applicants or maybe 1 or 2. Last week in one of my social media network groups, and a law firm owner posted that she posted a role for an associate attorney, and it was even a remote role, which is very attractive to this new generation of lawyers. So she posted that role, paid over $1,200 to promote it through, I think it was either LinkedIn or Indeed, for a week to try to get some applicants fast because she needed help, yesterday. And got 0, like she got a bunch of non-lawyers that applied, but got like 0 applicants after spending $1,200 on her search. We really just are hearing across the board that law firms are having an unusually hard time finding associate attorneys. And, this is just universal. So maybe you're wondering, where did all the associates go? Like, did we suddenly run out? Is there a, supply shortage? No, there's a lot of associates out there. There's a lot of them that are very talented. They are just going about finding work in really different ways compared to the traditional hiring approaches. So before I go on, I would love if you would humor me. I'd love to hear in the chat a little bit more about you and your experience. If you'd like to leave a little note here, maybe say where you're at. I'd love to hear about if you are responsible for, finding those associate candidates for your firm. I'd love to hear if your firm's planning to hire. Are you planning to hire more associates this year? And if you're in that process, are you having any of these difficulties? If you want to share any challenges that you've had with hiring associates the past few months or the past year, I think everyone would benefit from hearing that collective experience if you feel so inclined to share in the chat. So some really interesting data came out, I think it was in January, from Robert Half. I'm sure you're familiar with Robert Half, where they found that 90% of hiring managers are reporting difficulty finding skilled professionals. And this was across the board, not in all industries. So, we're not alone here in legal. This is just something that's going on in general in our economy right now, I guess. So 90% are having a hard time finding skilled professionals. And 58% of those surveyed said it's taking them longer to fill open roles than it did a year ago. And so, this is some really interesting data coming from Robert Half, which is obviously a huge company that places professionals in a variety of industries. Quick note, law clerk is a lot different than Robert Half. Number one, we only focus on legal. We only focus on associate attorneys. And we have a variety of very flexible options to get you help when you need it without hefty placement fees. So, I'm sure you've been at those executive committee meetings where you're trying to get approval for, hiring a candidate through a recruiter and you get pushback on the fees. We are not set up that way. So just wanted to note that. So why is hiring so hard right now? Well, I would submit that, I think when it comes to legal, a lot of firms are having a hard time with hiring because they're kind of just doing it the traditional way. They're not exploring other options. If you're only hiring the traditional way, that means you're only hiring full-time in-office associates. You're only hiring from your local pool of attorneys that are in your geographic area and available to come join your firm, and that limits your search. The other problems with this traditional way of hiring for law firms is that it's really slow. It can take, anywhere from 3 to 12 months or maybe longer to find a lateral. Maybe you're trying to hire a 5th-year attorney in a certain practice area. That can take many, many months because, a lateral is all about the right fit and the right timing. You might find someone that's the right fit in September, but they say, look, I'm not leaving until January because I've already worked 9 months this year and I'm going to stay for my bonus at this firm. I'm not going to walk away from that money. So the timing's not right. So you have to wait. And usually if your firm is like the ones I've worked at and like all of the ones I speak with, if you, are trying to hire, you probably really needed to hire someone like 3 or 4 months ago. You're already behind. Your team is slammed. You need that help. And so, it just takes so long with this traditional way of hiring. Now, on the flip side, another challenge is that this traditional way of only hiring in-office full-time associates is very expensive. I am sure that this group is probably well aware of all the data about associate salaries the past few years. I'll cover that quickly just in case you haven't seen some of this. But, when you look at associate salaries combined with the overhead, that is just part of hiring a full-time in-office employee. It's a very expensive endeavor. So it's slow, it's expensive. So why do we keep doing it? Well, we keep doing it because it's worked well for legal for a lot of years, for decades. And because in a lot of situations, that's what your firm needs. You do need some full-time in-office associates, but you can often supplement your team and expand your team with other options. And no surprise, we're going to go through those as well. So let's look through some of that data on associate salaries. I mean, legal has been a roller coaster the past really 4 years. Some great data came out from NALP, who I'm sure you're familiar with, their 2023 Associate Salary Survey, which I am hoping they will be updating with the 2024 update maybe later this month. This report came out in May of last year. So this data is about a year old now, but it's still really interesting. They found that salaries were actually up the most in law firms of 100 or fewer lawyers. So yes, big law gets all the attention. They make the headlines about their salary wars and how much first years are making at this firm or that firm. But that has trickled down really quickly. And actually, we're seeing the largest salary jumps in firms of 100 lawyers or fewer, which are still big firms. The in those firms under 100 lawyers, between 2021 and 2023, salaries went up about 30%. That's another common call I get when attorneys are looking for other options to hire when they've already posted the job and got 0 applicants. Then we talk about, okay, well, what salary are you putting at that? Okay, then I explain to them that they're drastically under market, that salaries have gone up 30% in the last 2 years, and that they need to reconsider their salary rate, what they're putting on the job job post, if they really want to attract more talent. And as I've already insinuated, these pay increases with associate salaries have cascaded, trickled down from big law all the way down to the small firms very quickly at a much more accelerated pace than we typically see. Now, at the end of 2023 into 2024, we've actually seen some layoffs at some of the big firms, some stealth layoffs. I think that the salary rise has taken a big turn, leveled off, but those increased salaries are here to stay, which just means, when you're whatever firm size you're looking at, and whichever year, if say you're looking to hire a 5th year and you're at a firm of 100 or fewer, you're probably looking to pay around $200,000 as a starting salary. The NALP found, of course, you have the overhead and benefits. These are all the things that with a full-time employee, you have to pay for, and they're very expensive. They can add easily another 30 to 40% on top of the base salary to pay for all these benefits. And this is something that you don't have when you're working with a remote associate in an outsourced capacity. So all in, when you look at starting salary and overhead, if we take the median salary, and those of you in New York and LA are laughing at 155,000, you wish you could hire someone for that rate. But if, that was the median across the board for a first year, plus the benefits, you're over $200,000 easy. And, if you're in New York or LA, if you're on the coast, you're probably going to be closer to 300,000 to hire a new associate. So, that's the way we've been doing it. And like I said, it's served legal well for a lot of years. And now we're seeing some disruption in that. And we're seeing some changes where people are looking for other options when it comes to hiring and staffing their teams. So let's look at a different approach. Okay, let's look at modern law firm hiring. The hallmarks of modern law firm hiring are really flexibility. Okay, that you're not locking yourself in with one person to do all this work. Flexibility, speed, low overhead, and top talent. You're not going to sacrifice talent by working with remote associates. And really, we're seeing that the most successful firms that are finding creative ways to staff their firms and meet their needs are doing that with a mix of approaches. Okay, it's really a multi-pronged approach is what we're seeing more and more firms go to and have success. So yes, you're going to have your in-office full-time associates because you need people to meet with clients, you need people to go to court, et cetera, et cetera. But you can often supplement the needs of your different practice groups and your different teams by outsourcing, either outsourcing just project-based work, part-time remote associates, full-time remote associates. Of course, you can outsource to paralegals, legal assistants, and all of that. But all I've got for you today is data and information on outsourcing to remote associate attorneys. And luckily, there's law clerk is one of many, many options. Outsourcing has really gone mainstream. I'm sure you've heard of a lot of these different companies. A lot of these are aimed at the larger firms, whereas law clerk has become a really great solution for what you may consider a smaller firm all the way up to midsize. And we've worked with some 500 plus law firms as well. So how does it work? Okay. How to pick the hiring option with law clerks. We have quite a few. And so when you're looking at, again, we're trying to give you secret weapons. These are just different resources, ways that you can say, okay, my attorney has this need. They need help with this to get this work done. And how can I solve that problem for them? Is law clerk an option? Which law clerk tool could I plug and play to help this attorney who's, I'm sure you've probably all had an attorney just show up unexpectedly to your office and say, oh my gosh, over at the estate planning department, we really need some help with this year-end rush. Can we hire another associate by next week? Something along those lines. I'm sure that happens to all of you, and this is another solution to look at. So we have a couple of different ways to help your firm get more work done. We offer project-based work, okay? And then we have two options that are paid by the hour, our hourly associate and subscription. I'll go through the differences there later on, but we have single project-based work and hourly ongoing work. Now, when it comes to project work, this is really for kind of a single project, a single piece of work, or maybe a couple of related discrete items of work. If you have your appellate department needs help to research and draft one specific issue within an appeal that they're working on, that's a great thing to post as a project. Go find someone in our ecosphere who is an expert on that issue, who's had deep experience. Maybe they've been a clerk for a federal judge and they've worked on these types of cases, and have them come in and work on that project to help get that done. Or, maybe you have an immigration team and they have an unusual criminal issue come up related to the immigration case, and they need to have someone come in and help figure out the best approach on that. They could find a crimmigration freelance attorney to come in and work on that project. Posting a project on Law Clerk is really easy. Once you've got your account set up, you basically come in, you tell us what you need, the project name, the deadlines, the price, you indicate the areas of law, and then you give a short description about the scope of work. You say, we need someone with at least 5 years experience in federal litigation, preference for someone who was a clerk, to come in and research and brief this issue for us on an appellate case involving this issue, whatever it might be. You give a brief summary of that work, and then we send it out to our network. Qualified remote associates are going to apply for your project. You'll get to see their credentials on their profile. You'll get to see their, of course, resume, writing samples. They have a whole library of those. And you can see their experience with different types of legal software, if they have any language skills that might be helpful. And most importantly, you'll see their reviews and ratings from the other work they've completed through the law clerk system. It is very common for a lot of our full-time, career freelance attorneys to have well over 200 or 300 ratings now. So it's easy to see who are the committed professional remote associates who know how to get work done, can meet your deadlines, can produce good work, and help you out with this issue. So, what are the economics on a project like this? Let's say you hire someone to come in and research that issue for that appellate brief, and you agree to pay them a flat fee of $1,000. Great. They're still going to keep a time card in which they track how much time they've spent working on that so that you can bill that time to your client. And it's just like you bill your associates time. You're paying them one rate, the equivalent of one rate per hour. You're billing them a reasonable rate to your client. In this example, if you determine that based on your market, the reasonable market rate was $200 an hour, in this example, that one project would result in an additional profit of $700 to the firm. Now, I'm guessing all of your firms, $700 is nothing big. For a solo, it makes a big deal. But you can see how this can be a very easy solution to tap into help on one discrete project when you've got someone in a bind, or maybe, actually, here's a few more examples. Let's go through these. So let's say, maybe your litigation team is suddenly, they've had their last settlement conference. It's clear the case is not going to settle. They really thought it was going to settle. And so now they're in a bind. They need some help from either one remote associate or maybe a few to come in and gear up for trial. We need to go and draft proposed jury instructions. They need help preparing for voir dire, motions in limine, reviewing deposition transcripts to come up with question outlines for different witnesses. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen in a very short period of time before trial. And I don't know about your experience, but it's like leading up to trial, it's like a time warp. Everything just goes so fast and there's never enough time. There's never enough hands. That can be a great way to come in and post a few projects on Law Clerk to get someone to work on these discrete tasks and help your team. Another way to think about project-based work is even if you have a practice group where maybe you've got a good team, but from time to time, the associates are really overwhelmed. And to help manage their overwhelm and prevent burnout, a great way to think of Law Clerk is that Law Clerk can be like the associate's associate. When the associates are at their max, they're tapped out, they need an extra set of hands. That's a great time to pass down some work to a remote associate through Law Clerk as a simple project. And we can help you with the specifics in terms of how to price it and how to pick the best applicant, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Another great example of when a project could be a good resource for your firm is, maybe you have someone go out unexpectedly on a medical leave. They suddenly become very sick and they have to have surgery and et cetera, et cetera. And they maybe had some deadlines that were coming up like this week. You need help fast. And if there's no one else available in the firm to step in and help on those issues, or maybe it's a really, highly specialized area of law where that partner is like, no one else here knows how to do this. I have to go find someone. Well, again, when you're recruiting to find a remote associate through Law Clerk, you are fishing in a big pond. Okay, I grew up in Nebraska. I always have at least one farm or fishing reference in every presentation, so just bear with me here. But when you're looking in your own local community, that's a small pond. You are fishing in a small pond. With Law Clerk, you are nationwide pond. We have remote associates in all 50 states, all practice areas. We have seen everything from horse racing law to aviation law to I can't even tell you what. We have literally seen it all. The depth and breadth of our talented lawyers is really impressive, and the best way to see it is to just try it for yourself. But this is another situation when life happens for one of your practice groups, one of your associates, you're in a bind and some work needs to get done. This is another great resource to have to say, hey, let's go post it as a project on Law Clerk. And at least then you can have someone get the draft, 70, 80%, 90% of the way done for the managing partner to come in and review, put the final finishing touches on. So there's another little resource for your tool bag. Okay, so that's project-based work, like one very distinct, discrete project, something that you need help with. But I realize that really probably what your firm needs, if you're looking to hire and you're having challenges, is you need ongoing help. And that's where our hourly options become just such a lifesaver. The ability to find a talented remote associate and work with them on an hour-by-hour basis is a game changer. It is a way to quickly flex up or down depending on what your team needs. And it's a big, big tool, secret weapon for you to have on that toolkit. So when it comes to hourly, we have two options. We have a pure hourly, we call that our hourly program, clever name, right? Where it can fluctuate. So we have no minimums with that program. So maybe some weeks your team needs to send them 20 hours of overflow work, whereas other weeks it's 30. Or other weeks it's 12. It can fluctuate and you're just paying by the hour. The freelance lawyer gets paid by the hour. That's great. Now, on the flip side, if you have someone, maybe you have one of your practice groups that says, we don't really need a whole other attorney, but we need like a half of an attorney. Okay, we could do that too. For that, we would probably suggest that you go into our subscription program where you're committing to, maybe 100 hours a month or 80 hours a month, whatever it is that practice group needs, where you have one dedicated remote associate on standby, committed to work those 80 hours a month. So you can kind of figure out what you need. And that's a really powerful thing. So subscription is when you have a predictable, steady flow of hours that you're going to need, and you want to kind of lock in one person and make sure that they're available to commit to those hours for you on an ongoing monthly basis, great, subscription, otherwise hourly. But I don't want you to get too worried about all these details. One of the most important things for you to know when working with Law Clerk is that when you sign up and you're onboarded, you're going to be matched with your very own advisor. The advisor is like your concierge. They're going to be there to help figure out your needs and figure out where your needs best fit our abilities to help you and match you up accordingly. So this is really a great resource to have. Now, when you're looking for an hourly associate, again, it's really easy to put up this, you log into your account and you say, hey, we need a 7th year immigration attorney to help out our immigration team, about 60 hours a month. Maybe that's a seasonal need. And you kind of go through and you say, how long you think that engagement's going to go on, monthly expectation of hours, the hourly rate you're going to pay, time zone preference. There's a whole long list of things that you can customize in here to help you find the right talent. With all of these, there's no long-term commitments too. So if for some reason you staff up and you bring on a bunch of hourly associates because you think you have 4 cases going to trial in the next 3 months and your team needs some extra help, and then suddenly 2 of them settle and you can turn it off and scale down, and you just give us notice. On the subscription, it's a 1-month notice. Hourly, you just quit giving them work. So very, very flexible without making you commit to any long-term contracts or obligation. Now, one of my favorite things about how we have built this company to help lawyers and to help law firms and legal administrators get more work done is that you can mix and match. Okay. And you might even start to feel a little bit like a kid in a candy store with all of these options. Let's say that, your real estate team, the head of your real estate practice group comes and says, we need another associate. Okay. Well, you talk to them and you drill down and you find out in their mind, they think they need 1 associate in office full time. But what they really need is they need someone that can do litigation work on real estate issues, and they need someone that can do the transactional work. So ideally, you'd have 2 different associates, but you certainly don't need to hire 2 full-time in-office associates. With Law Clerk, you can come in and you can find a litigation attorney to help that real estate group with their litigation issues, maybe 100 hours a month. You could come in and find someone with a transactional background to come in and help supplement your existing team 60 hours a month. You can customize exactly what you need rather than trying to hire one person in office who maybe only does litigation, doesn't know the transactional side, can't really do both parts of what your team needs. And so you can mix and match by different quantities of time and help, by different practice areas, and you can always supplement all of these things with projects. If weird things come up that no one on your team wants to tackle or has time to tackle, post a project and get some help to figure out that work and get some answers. Okay, a few examples of where the hourly or you pay by the hour options would come into play. Again, maybe your IP partner needs help from time to time, but not really all the time. You can't justify hiring a full-time associate. A great solution is to get them an on-demand remote associate who can help them as needed, and you're paying them by the hour. So that's a really, really great solution. Or as I mentioned earlier, maybe you have different teams that have seasonal needs. Your tax team needs help different times of the year. Your M&A team needs year-end help to close deals. Your immigration team needs help seasonally for a few months to get through a certain visa season with all the visa applications. So, that's another great time where you can come in and find someone that wants to work 20 hours a week for the next 3 months to fill that need without having to hire someone full-time, onboard them only to probably let them go a few months later. And it can be hard to find those attorneys in your local market if you need seasonal help. So this is a great solution too. Oh, I am flying there. Sorry about that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have worked with a number of quite large firms to come up with custom solutions. They have come to us in a very discreet way and said, this is what we need. And how can we make that work? Maybe what they need doesn't exactly fit into a project or an hourly or a subscription. So for example, a few months back, we were actually contacted by one of the practice group leaders from a 200 plus lawyer firm, so a big firm, because their client had actually said, look, we just got all of these millions of pages of documents disclosed to us. I know you have to review them. We have to do our due diligence. We need to go through and see what's there. But I'm not going to pay your rack rates to do that. They didn't even want to pay the paralegal rates. The paralegal rates at this firm were like $500 an hour. They said, go find a different solution. So the firm came to us at the direction of their client and said, can you help us put together a team to review these documents within, I think they use relativity, and they wanted it done within a pretty quick timeline. So what we did was we worked with them. We found a review team of, I believe it ended up being 6 remote associates. So, you're getting trained attorneys to do this review work at a much lower rate than what the firm was charging the paralegals. They came up with the parameters of the review, kind of key things they were looking for, the system they wanted to use to tag and record the review progress, and they got it done. And the firm was very happy. The client was thrilled. And I think, with this economic environment, clients know that there's other resources out there for lawyers and law firms to get work done. And I think we might even start to see more and more savvy clients like this one saying, look, I'm not paying your firm these rates to do this. I know there's other options out there. Let's go find another solution to get this part of this case handled, and then we'll move on. And that's a great time to reach out to us, and we will work with you to build a custom solution to whatever your need may be. All right. Another secret weapon is, of course, how to get buy-in from your attorneys. Maybe you think this is a great idea. You're like, remote associates totally makes sense to me. Oh my gosh, this would be a great way to solve so many needs at our firm. But you can already imagine going to the practice group meeting or the executive committee meeting and presenting this, and them just, doing what lawyers do best. Okay, and I am a lawyer. I'm married to a lawyer. I work with I'm surrounded by lawyers everywhere I look. So I know that we can be the worst. Okay, we can shoot down even the best ideas. Okay, I know it's so frustrating. So, my best advice for how to try to get that buy-in from your attorneys is, it actually comes from a lot of parenting books that I read when I had kids. So, if you can figure out a way to make them think it was their idea, that's always a good one. And you guys probably already know this, but I'll just mention this. Or, present them with 2 options to choose from. We can do this or we can do this. And make sure that the options are such that they're just naturally geared to the one you want them to do, right? Or last but not least, the other best advice I have from the parenting books is you can always bribe them, the suckers. No, I'm kidding. That probably won't work. But I know that it can be a challenge to get buy-in, and our team is always here to help supply you with information, data that you need to make the case to why this makes sense, both practically speaking and financially speaking, for the firm to try something different to overcome your hiring challenges and get the help that your teams need. So, but I think actually at the end of the day, the best way to get buy-in is just to say, like, why don't we just try it? It's not going to cost very much. It's so accessible, flexible, affordable. Let's, why not? Let's just give it a try. Give me $2,500 to go hire someone to do this thing, and let's see how it goes. You really don't have much to lose. And so I would really encourage you to roll the dice, give it a try, and I think you're going to be really happy with the results. Another great way to get buy-in from your attorneys is to just show them the ROI, okay? Show them the return on investment. Now, we routinely talk with our clients, both law firm administrators and law firm owners, about the return they can see from a law clerk, okay? The easiest way to say this is that $1 you spend with law clerk is going to produce $3 of billable work, okay? You're going to turn $1 into 3. And let's talk about an example from a firm that we recently helped in Illinois. A mid-sized firm in Illinois just came to us. It was another big doc review. We get a lot of those, get a lot of other things too, though. And what happened here, I hope my click-throughs work, is they determined they needed 4 remote associates to each work 120 hours a month. And they paid our remote associates $100 an hour. Now, one question might be how much you're going to pay for this type of work. We see a majority of the work coming through for around $100 to $150 an hour. Of course, there are instances where it's less, and there are certainly instances where it's more. We've had firms pay over $300 an hour for our freelancers. It just depends on the sophistication level, your market, the demands of your firm and what you need. But, in this case, it was $100 an hour. In the first month, okay, so they wanted them to produce 480 hours of work. They produced for $79.94. That's pretty good. And they paid us. They billed that work to their client at $300 an hour, which resulted in $143,000 of revenue. They got a fast and efficient review of thousands of documents. I believe I was told that the team finished about a week ahead of the deadline, so that was great. And at the end of just 1 month, it generated additional profit to the firm of $95,000. I mean, I'm even the biggest firms where you have hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. I don't think they're going to shy away from an extra 95,000 pure revenue without any overhead associated with it, plus getting a big chunk of work done, and you're freeing up your other associates to do other more intense work, okay? Or you're freeing up your partners, your associates, whoever, to do the legal strategy and the client consultations and the work that they should be focusing on. So it's a great way to get some of that work off of your existing team's plate, have someone else get it done, okay? Another more simpler example of the ROI is, maybe you have maybe that IP partner that wants to have someone just available hourly as needed, okay? They're paying them $100 an hour, you're billing their work at $300. Again, you're turning $1 into $3 of billable revenue. At the end of the month, that's going to make you an extra nice chunk of change. Over the course of a year, that's another $240,000 brought into that practice group without any extra overhead. Plus, you're better able to service the client's needs, to meet their deadline, to get work done faster. Clients are going to be happy. They're going to keep coming back to you for more work. You're going to be their go-to because they're going to know even if their needs increase and they need more work done, you're able to scale up and find the talented attorneys you need to get it done. That's great. Some benefits of outsourcing, we've covered a lot of these, but just to review, low overhead. I'm not going to say no overhead because there could be some instances where you maybe pay for a certain technology tool for that person to use to get that work done, but it's still much, much lower than hiring full-time in-office associates. This is a great way for you to drive profit. This is not an expense. This is a profit center, and that is something you need to make sure you fully understand. If you have questions on that, let me know, but this is like a hypercharged profit center, even more so than your existing pool of associates. Super flexible, super fast. It just is a great resource. If you need help, we can often find you applicants for project work within minutes or hours. For those hourly positions, we see those matched within days, maybe 2 weeks at the high end, just depending on how fast you want to go. And deep expertise. Okay, let's dive on into that for just a moment. Who are these freelance lawyers? I get that question a lot when I'm at conferences and events. They say, well, who are these freelancers anyways? Our talent pool is all US licensed attorneys. They are US licensed attorneys in good standing, and we verify that with their bars once a year on their anniversary renewal dates. Today we have well over 20, actually 25,000, probably 30. These numbers are a little old too. We have tens of thousands of successful placements. Our network is over 14, I think it's 15,000 attorneys now to choose from. And we have a really high satisfaction rate. So I think the satisfaction rate really shows how well this can work. Again, when you post any sort of work on Law Clerk and you're trying to find someone to do that work for you, you're going to see that candidate's robust profile, their background, their resume, writing sample reviews, et cetera, you're going to find that a lot of the freelance attorneys through Law Clerk are former judicial clerks. They have that coveted judicial clerkship experience that a lot of them have. We have a lot of military spouses that move around every few years. It can be very challenging for those attorneys to find jobs in their new location. We have a lot of semi-retired or retired attorneys that just say, you know what, I don't want to run my own firm anymore. I just want to do the fun stuff. I just want to do the lawyering and the writing, the researching. And you can find people with deep expertise that don't need a lot of handholding to get up and running. And you find everything in between. Of course, we see a lot of people taking time away from the traditional in-office job to care for maybe young children, aging parents, et cetera. There's a lot of talent out there. And if you're having a hard time finding them, this is another option to go explore the talent that's out there. We also have a lot of former big law attorneys that maybe didn't think they were ever going to make partner and wanted to get out of that model into a different model. We have a lot of former big law attorneys. I should have mentioned that one first. So the best way, again, to see the talent level is to make an account, post some work, see it for yourself. I think you're going to be surprised. I wanted to go through a few best practices. Let's say you work with one of your practice group leaders and you get them an hourly associate. How do you really integrate them and make them part of the team? Law clerk can very easily become a natural extension of your existing law firm. And the challenge is for you to think about onboarding and treating a new remote associate as much as you can, just like you would an office associate. A lot of the things you would do for a new in-office associate, you can do with that remote capacity. So, a couple of things to think about doing is making an onboarding schedule, both before the person starts, maybe the first 2 weeks, a little more robust to make sure they're up and running properly, and then to schedule ongoing plans for communication and mentorship as well. A lot of our clients create a firm email address for the person, for this remote associate, just like you would a new associate on your team, or you connect them to the Slack channel for a particular case or practice group, whatever it is. We definitely recommend that you send an email to the members of the practice group that they're going to be working with to let them know that this remote associate will be joining, and schedule a welcome Zoom. Just like maybe on the first day, you would walk a new associate around to all the offices, take them to lunch. You can do that with a welcome Zoom where they get to meet everybody. Maybe you send them an Uber Eats gift card they can order lunch in, and everybody can have a salad together. You can replicate that through this remote way and still get to know that person. You definitely want to introduce them to a legal assistant if they're going to have an assigned legal assistant to help with getting documents into your system or filing things or whatever. And a lot of our clients even go so far as to have them go get a professional headshot, and they add them to the website, of course, with any necessary disclaimers about where they're licensed and all of those good things. So again, a lot of the things you would do for a traditional in-office associate, you can do with a remote associate to more fully integrate them and make them a part of your team to set them up for success. A few more things that we suggest that you do to help set you up for success. And I'm getting close to the end, so if you have questions, don't be shy. Feel free to put those in the chat. But definitely, if you have a document library or templates that you want them to work for, make sure they know how to access those. It's a good idea to give them a memo with work requirements, things like writing style, especially if you work in front of the same couple of judges and there's certain writing styles, font sizes, all of those things. Make sure they know your expectations for when their hours are due to be billed in the system, whether that's the end of the day, the end of the week. We always want to make sure that you are trying to be as responsive with a remote associate as you would be someone that walks up to your door and says, hey, do you have a second? So, if you are going to be in trial or on vacation and can't answer those questions and be responsive, always designate an alternate contact person on your team. Maybe that's another associate attorney, maybe that's your assistant. Just make sure they have someone else they can go to for those times where maybe you're not available. And, with the remote associates, if you can, at least when they're getting up and running, try to avoid sending them any rush work. It's not setting yourself or them up for work if they're just getting used to you and working with you. If you hand them something and say, oh yeah, I need that by 5 o'clock today, you'll get to the point where you can do that, but try to discourage any of those rush jobs, at least at the onset. So these are a few of our best practices. We've developed quite a bit more over the course of working with different teams. And it's just something to be very mindful about how you're bringing this person into the team if they are going to be working with you in an ongoing hourly based role of some sort. You want to do all of these things to try to make them a natural extension of your law firm. A few more hot topic questions that we tend to get on these. I thought I would just try to maybe anticipate a few of your questions. Conflicts. We obviously, if you are hiring a remote associate to work with one particular client, you can inquire about conflicts, before you're even matched with them to move forward. Beyond that, we have an internal built-in conflict system for every single piece of work you send to that person, where they review it before they get access to any data that you may be sharing about the case in case they have a conflict. Again, one of the beautiful things about if maybe you're a California-based firm and you're hiring someone who is in Texas, has a California license, but now they're in Texas, chances of them having a conflict is probably pretty low because they're just so far outside of your geographic area. It's probably unlikely that they've encountered the parties involved in your case. Payments are handled. Your law firm pays law clerk pays the remote associates. We handle all of the tax reporting, all of that. So it just alleviates a lot of the administrative headache. We are like a vendor to you, and we pay the freelance lawyer. We take our commission out of there too, which is where we get paid. And that is disclosed to the freelance lawyer upfront. Insurance, specifically malpractice insurance, because you're certainly not providing any medical insurance or anything like that, but malpractice insurance is still the responsibility of your firm. So these remote associates are designed to work in the background under the supervision of your partner, your practice group leader, just like any other associate. So you need to make sure that the partner still knows they need to review their work, that they can't get around their duty of supervision. And so the insurance is on the firm. Now, some firms add the person on by name, and depending on the type of work you need to have them do, if you ever need them to do remote court appearances or depositions, then of course we would encourage you to for sure add them by name to your policy. But we've not encountered any problems with any insurers about that. In fact, the insurers that we've talked to have said, oh, thank goodness, I'm glad there's a solution like this, because we want to make sure our law firm clients have every resource available to avoid getting into trouble, to avoid missing deadlines, to avoid not communicating with clients, et cetera, et cetera. And that can help keep your team out of hot water if they have this extra help, this release valve for those times when they need a few extra attorneys to come in and help out. So that's really good. Ethics rules, we've got a ton of information on the ethics rules. The biggest ones to keep in mind that your attorneys will probably ask you about are, you've got to be mindful of your duty to supervise remote associates, the same as you would a first-year associate in the office. And you have to make sure that you are charging their work to your client at a reasonable market rate. That's rule 1.5. So you can't get piggish when you're billing them out. You need to look at their level of experience and expertise, along with your market, your practice area, to figure out what is a reasonable market rate to bill them at. And of course, you can find a lot more FAQs and additional information on our website, lawclerk.legal. And I invite you to join me there. So I was really hoping in the chat someone would be like, we want to see pictures of your dogs, but you didn't. But guess what? I'm going to show you a picture anyway, just to tie back to my earlier slide of ask me about my dogs. There they are. They're cute. Okay, as you can probably tell, we are wrapping it up here, folks. At the end of the day, I want you to know that hiring is hard for everyone right now. It's not just you, it's not just your firm. And you got this, and we are here to help. We are here to be another tool in your tool belt, a secret weapon of sorts. And, the great thing about our team is that we are here to help talk to you to figure out the best solutions for what your firm is facing and what you need. So reach out to us. You can go to lawclerk.legal, click on that Talk to an Expert. Actually, I will share in the chat a link if you want to just go schedule a time now. By all means, feel free. Otherwise, it's always there. You can email us, pick up the phone and give us a call if you want to talk to someone right now. As a reminder, I will be in Denver in 2 weeks for the conference, and I look forward to, if you're there, come meet me in person, and I'd love to meet you. I don't get to see your faces today, so this is always funny. I'm like just talking to the camera. But we really want to be a solution to help you develop that multi-pronged hiring approach, to find creative ways to fill those needs of your different practice groups, your different attorneys, without having to hire a full-time in-office associate, as legal has tended to do for many decades. So thank you very much for joining, and I wanted to leave some time for questions. So let me go back and.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Yeah, I would like to encourage everyone to put some questions in the chat box for us. But as we're waiting for those to come in, I do want to just refer you back to Georgia from Jacksonville, Florida's current challenge. If you're able to see that in the chat box, you definitely addressed a lot of this in there. But if you just wanted to give a personalized response, that would be great.
So that's interesting, Georgia. Georgia is asking about, she's saying that their firm has a challenge where the associates they're interviewing have a few years of experience in a certain practice area, but they want to join their firm to work in a different practice area, and they want the salary expectation of, having those couple of years under their belt. So that's tough because I think you need to go in and give them a little reality check about how this legal market works. And if you want to start over in a different practice area and you're going to learn it from the ground up from us, you're not getting paid as a third or fourth year attorney. You're going to get paid as a first year attorney again, maybe a second. But I can absolutely see how that would be frustrating. And I've heard from law firm owners all across the country that I think associate expectations on salary and law firm expectation on salary, there's a lot of disconnect there. So I'm not surprised to hear that, but I think you really just have to get very granular with these folks and say, hey, if this is the kind of work you want to do and you want to join our team, we can offer you this because we know we're going to be investing some time to train you in this practice area. And that's my best advice on that.
Great. And Georgia is commenting exactly. Thank you so much. So I appreciate that, Kristen. And then I do have a question coming in that asks, how fast can you get started with a remote associate? What's the timeline like?
Sure. Much faster. So if you remember when we were talking about the traditional hiring of a lateral associate or a first year, that can take many months. That can take, it can take 3 to 12 months for a lateral, depending on the timing. And first year hiring, that typically happens once a year. So that's very limited. It can be very slow. With our project-based work, again, so if you have one specific piece of work you need to have someone come in and help your team with, you will have applicants within the first hour, guaranteed. You'll see the majority of applicants for that work within the first 12 hours. You can pick someone, get them started. You can get them up and running very quickly. For the ongoing work, hourly and subscription, of course, I'd say give that at least 24 to 48 hours to let people apply, get everybody in, go through, narrow down your pool. And we do have a feature that allows you to ask them a few questions back and forth, kind of like a mini interview, and then you can get matched up. So with the ongoing hourly work, you can often find someone within, say, dare I say 3 or 4 days. More common, we usually tell people, give us 2 weeks. 2 weeks is still pretty fast, but it just depends how quickly you want to move and how quickly your team can make a decision on that.
Thanks. And I think you mentioned something about over 14,000 associates in your network. How does the matchup process work?
Sure, I should have probably included that in the slide or done a demo, but it's all automated within our platform. So you make an account, just like you have an email account, you log in, and there's a dashboard that allows you to either post new work or to go in and review the applicants on your pending work, or to communicate on your ongoing work, what's already in progress. So it's all in there. You can go in and review your applicants at any time. You can decline someone if they clearly don't have the experience you're looking for, and narrow down the pool. We tend to see around 12 to 15 applicants for most of our opportunities that come in because, again, we have that big pool. So yeah, it's all within the system. It's pretty cool to see that, and it's just, it's at the tip of your fingertips, which is great.
That's a great feature to have. Thanks for that. And another question that I have is, what kind of work can a remote associate do? Are they able to go to court? Those kinds of things.
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for reminding me of that. So what kind of work can a remote associate do? The short answer is they can do anything that your full-time in-office associate would do. So if you're thinking of something that other than, I guess, sitting down to meet with clients at a conference table, but even they can at times do client meetings or, information gathering meetings by Zoom or FaceTime or whatever. So remote associates are great for research, helping with discovery. That can be a great one to free up your team and not have them bogged down in discovery. Research, writing, drafting any sort of document. We see probably about 60 to 65% of the work that comes through our site is litigation based. And about another, 30 to 35 is on the transactional side. So it's about a 2/3 litigation, 1/3 transactional, but we see a large amount of work related to due diligence on mergers and acquisitions, large purchases or sales, a lot of real estate type work. So really you can do anything. Now, can they go to court? That's a great question too. With the court feature, that is something that if you find a candidate who is fully licensed in the jurisdiction that where you need them to appear and they're willing to go to court. You got to keep in mind some of the road associates have no interest in ever going to court again. They don't want to. They just want to do the writing and the research in the background. But if you find a candidate who's willing to go to court and they're licensed in your jurisdiction, that is an option that you can bring someone on board to help with that. It works best when you are still doing virtual court appearances, obviously. But that is something that we've had success placing when, if it's a small court in, Minnesota, we might not have someone there, but obviously the larger metropolitan areas and cities, we have a good pool to at least try and find that solution for you.
Great, thank you so much. And we are approaching the end of today's webinar, so if there are any more questions, feel free to put those in the chat box. I do want to give you this opportunity, Kristen, just to wrap things up before we come to the close.
Definitely. Well, I hope this was helpful. Thank you to everyone who joined live, and thank you to anyone who watches on the replay. But the great thing about Law Clerk is we are always here for you if you want to explore options, talk it through with someone before you talk it through with your practice group or your executive committee. We are here to be a resource to help you and your law firm get more work done, to make more billable hours, and to keep your clients happy. So I would definitely love for you to visit us at lawclerk.legal. If you're on any of these social media platforms, go connect with us, follow us there to keep in touch. I'm on LinkedIn if you want to go find me there as well. And I really enjoyed this, and I hope you have a new tool in your toolbox. So thank you.